Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Lily and I love writing fantasy novels, and currently I am working on a vampire romantasy called Slayer Bride, and today I wanted to plot draft 4 of that book. This is such an exciting video for me to make, firstly because it's quite a new thing for me. I've never properly plotted a book before. Basically, I'm a huge pantser. I absolutely love discovery writing. I love just opening up a blank Word document, going into a story with very few ideas and then just writing it as if I'm reading the book for the first time. I like not knowing what's going to come next. I like writing without rules and trying new fun things out. That is my preferred way to write. I like to write as if I'm a reader and as if, I'm discovering the story. However, for those of you who don't know and are new here, I've really got like a fire lit under me, like pushing me towards finishing the book that I'm currently working on. So as I kind of just said, I'm working on Slayer Bride, which is a vampire romantasy. It's like the chosen one with, a fake marriage plot. It's very much like heavy on the romance, and it's extremely character driven, and it's set in sort of like a dark fantasy setting. That was a really bad pitch. I said in my last video that I was going to come up with a pitch for the book to like include in my intros on YouTube, but clearly I have not done that yet. But yes, as I was saying, I have this fire lit under me. I've been working on Slayer Bride since 2022, so for quite a few years, and I have written 3 drafts of it, so I'm about to go into writing the 4th draft. And my dream ideal goal is to have it completely finished a year from now, and for me to be querying agents with that book a year from now. As I said in my last video, I have officially finished doing my read through of draft 3 and writing down edit suggestion notes on the manuscript itself. I also did some brainstorming, which you can watch in my most recent video, which was really fun and really helped me to come up with some new ideas on how to improve this book moving forward. I feel like this is such a rambly intro. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is the fact that I need to do a good outline for draft 4 if I want to meet my goal of being able to submit my book to literary agents 1 year from now. This needs to be quite a clean and polished draft that I can, give to beta readers, get feedback on, and hopefully I should only have to do 1, maybe 2 more edits of this book before I query, because we're working on quite a tight deadline now. For me, 12 months is quite a tight writing deadline. So I told myself I'd do a short intro. Clearly I have not done that. But yeah, we'll get into the meat of the video now. So I'm just going to start talking about what the next plans are. And those plans include sticky notes, which I'm super excited to use. In the past, whenever I've outlined, they've never been really intense outlines, just me putting my notes and my thoughts and story ideas onto a Word doc. I've always typed my outlines up. So I thought it could be fun to do something a bit different and things I've seen other authortubers do, and use some post-it notes. I also think this will be the best thing for what I'm planning on doing today, because I want to go through my manuscript and I'm thinking of using different colors of these sticky notes to categorize different parts of my book. So maybe blue could be chapters that are pretty good, so won't require any major edits. Green could be chapters that I kind of want to keep maybe elements of, but for the most part it's getting a rewrite. And then yellow, I think, is going to be gaps in my book, any areas where I feel like I want to include a new scene, a new chapter, and then I'm going to stick all of these up on my mirror behind me. And in theory, I should then have a sort of post-it note outline of what my book is going to look like. So I'm not going to do yellows just yet, I don't think. I mean, the colours aren't permanent, by the way. I might choose to use pink instead if it looks prettier, but just bear with me. I think I want to start going through just the greens and the blues, and I'm going to read through my manuscript to get a little refresher on what's actually in my book and what each chapter is, and then I'll stick them up in my mirror, and then afterwards we'll add the yellows and the new scenes into it so I can see sort of visually what I'm working with. I think post-it notes are quite a good idea because I might want to rejig my story a little bit. Some of the chapters and some of the scenes are currently in my manuscript I think might need a bit of rejigging and moving about, but we'll see. That's what the mirror is for me to actually see my book all laid out in front of me so I can decide what's working, what's not working, and then move things about as is needed. So we're going to do that now, and I will talk to you guys again in a second. Okay, so I'm now done creating my little post-it note outline. I love it so much. That was the most fun I have ever had writing, or plotting rather. So firstly, I should just mention that I have changed the colours to what I previously just said. So basically, blues are scenes that require minimal editing. So in terms of the structure, the content, the characters, they're pretty decent. I'm not saying that some of them won't need rewriting, because they definitely could if the writing is just not great. However, in terms of the overall structure and contents, they're fine, they're staying. Yellows are post-it notes where I would say I'm keeping around like 50% of the original structure and content of the draft 3 version of these chapters. However, I will be adding a decent amount, maybe changing the structure quite significantly. So yellows are where there's kind of a chapter in draft 3 that I'm sort of keeping, but it still needs a little bit of changing. And then pink is where I'm just adding something completely new that's not in the previous draft. In terms of my first thoughts, I would say that I was expecting more blues. Obviously right now I'm sat next to a place where there are a lot of blue post-it notes, but in terms of the earlier chapters, I was expecting more. I didn't realise how much I was changing in draft 4 until now, so it's just interesting. I thought Act 1 was pretty much done and basically my strongest part of the book, but it turns out that Act 3 is where I'm changing the least and it's actually the strongest part of my book. So I just thought that was quite interesting. So next, what I'm going to do is figure out what these pinks and these yellows actually are going to be. So I will need to write a much more I guess detailed outline compared to what's on these post-it notes. If you look at the post-it notes, you'll see that some of them literally have like one sentence, if that. Some of them have literally like 2 words written on them, whereas others have quite a significant amount of content. So I just need to expand what's written on these post-it notes a little bit more. After that, I'm going to categorize all these post-it notes into the Save the Cat beats, just so I can get an idea of where they're meant to actually be in the book and just see how they're fitting into the overall like 3-act story structure. Once I've done that, I'll use my chapter outline template to outline the entire book. This is what we are working with in terms of a template. The setup, conflict, and aftermath all refer to the first, second, and third part of my chapter. So setup is just, the introduction, where is my character at, what does she want, what are they going to get up to in this chapter, etc. Conflict is like the main event that happens in the chapter that drives the story forwards. And then the aftermath is basically, what happens after that, what are my character's next steps, what are they going to do. What actually goes in these 3 areas does depend on the chapter and the tone and the vibes that I'm going for, but that's basically how I structure my chapters. The next part of this template is where I monitor the flow of my story. So this is how I make sure that my story is a series of events that all relate to each other, as opposed to, a series of random chapters that could be mixed up and put in any order. So the first part, link to last chapter. This just makes sure that this chapter is being caused by the chapter before. So let's say in the previous chapter, my character finds something out. This chapter might be her using the information to take her next steps. So just making sure there's a flow. And then again, I make sure that it's linked to the chapter that follows this one as well. The next section of this template is focused on the romance. So I want to just make sure that I'm considering where my characters are at in terms of feelings for each other, their relationship, and how this impacts their behaviour, specifically in this chapter. I found in draft 3 that it wasn't necessarily like insta-lovey, but the characters felt too comfortable around each other a bit too early on in the book. So this is my way of making sure that that doesn't happen in draft 4. And then lastly, character motives. So just going through all the significant characters in this scene. So Valentina, Caden, the villains, etc. And just seeing what their motives are and how it's going to impact this chapter. So that is a template that I will be using. In draft 3, I only had the first part of that template. So basically the setup, conflict, and aftermath. I did loosely consider how the chapter would impact the following one, but I don't think I was super strict in making sure that there was a proper flow to my book. And whilst for the most part I am happy with my outline that I'm referring to for draft 3, I definitely want to make sure that, especially in the fun and games section where I've got a lot of new chapters I'm adding into the book, that they are all linked and connected, and there's a nice, snowball effect in my book where I feel like all the chapters are actually like connected to each other and the story has a good flow. I've used that word a lot today, but we'll use it again. My story has a good flow. So I'll get on to looking at the Save the Cat beats and fitting all of these lovely post-it notes into various beat categories. And then I will move on to using the template. So I have made a decent amount of progress on outlining the chapters that are new to draft 4, and I think I'm just going to keep on going for the rest of the day, but I am going to take a quick break to go to the gym, go outside for a little bit because I've been indoors all day and I'm getting quite hot in my bedroom, to be honest, so I think some fresh air could be really nice. But in terms of how I'm feeling about outlining, I think as a pantser, it's quite a nice change to know I don't need to think about my book as much when I'm drafting as I would if I didn't have an outline. As a pantser, you have a lot of fun, but it does come at a cost. You have to really think about your story as you're writing it, and you basically end up just outlining each chapter as you come to it. And then when it comes to editing, you basically outline your story from scratch anyway, so you might as well have outlined in the first place. So I'm really intrigued to see if draft 4 is going to be more of a relaxing writing experience than draft 3. Although that being said, I don't know if I will have completely outlined my book by the time I start drafting, because I am technically supposed to start writing tomorrow on June 1st. But to be honest, the bulk of the work is done, and I have done a lot more than I normally would for a draft. I've gone into way more detail and outlined way more chapters than I normally would do. This is the first time I've actually done a chapter by chapter map of the entire book. Something else that's on my mind is, what do I do with these? What do I do with them now that I'm done outlining? I guess something that could be really fun is if I get rid of each one as I write the equivalent chapter in my book. So when I draft, chapter 2, I get rid of post-it note 2, etc. But I do also need my mirror back, so we'll think. Anyway, I think that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you again soon.